Now we'll cover how we start to draw in AutoCAD. So the Draw toolbar contains the following commands, and on the handout it also shows the aliases in caps. So there's lines, there's construction lines, there's polylines. Okay, we see line, polyline. Our construction line is located underneath here. Okay. Polygons, rectangles, arcs, so on and so forth. You can refer to the list in the handout. We'll start off by entering the line command, either by clicking on the toolbar button or by typing in L or by typing in line and entering the command. So after entering the command, so I'll say L, or you can say L-I-N-E, or you can just click on the list if you have the dynamic input activated, and you can click on that. And after entering the command, you'll notice that the crosshair changes its appearance. So from being a cross with a square in the center, it transforms into only being a cross. And this is a general behavior that always happens when you are in the draw command. So still pausing at this moment and looking at the command window, you'll see that it displays the following message down below. So it says command line specify first point. So this line tells you that you're in the line command and that AutoCAD is waiting for an entry from you. So in this case, the program is asking you to specify a first point. So we do this by left-clicking at any location within the model space. And pausing here again, notice the rubber banding line that appears anchored to the location where you clicked. Now again, if we look down to the command line, it reads specify next point or undo. So we specify the second point in the same manner as we did with the first one by clicking at any location within the model space. Now the anchor of the rubber banding line is located at the second point, and AutoCAD is asking us again to specify a next point. So you can continue doing this for a few more clicks at various locations. Okay, and then hit the escape key on your keyboard to exit the command. So the cursor changes back to its default appearance, and in the command window, the only message displayed is command, and as it is grayed out, it says type a command, meaning that AutoCAD is waiting for a new command. So this is a very typical process of the command structure in AutoCAD. It's also, the quote-unquote language that AutoCAD will speak with all the commands. And once you've gotten used to this, mastering new commands will come more quickly and easily, because you'll find that AutoCAD tends to stick to this language. So in short, you first select your command, then the locations, and then you can hit escape to exit. So note that escape also aborts all commands at any given time. We'll now repeat practicing this with the tools polyline, rectangle, and circle, placing random shapes within the model space. Polylines consist of individual segments, lines, and arcs that act as a single object. That's how it differs from the line. And all information in AutoCAD, as I mentioned in an earlier video, is referred to as an object, no matter if it's a line or a shape. So if we go to our polyline, okay, we can either click on the button here, we can type in P-line or PL, okay, is the alias for it. And again, it works the same way as the line until we hit escape and exit it. Okay, rectangles, same thing. We can go up to the button here, we can type in rectang, and we can type in REC in order to activate the command. I can see it from the list. Okay, same thing, it asks for first corner point, second corner point. Circles, it's going to ask for a center point and then a second point. Okay, you can also notice that when we expand these tools, they might have different ways of setting, a circle, for example. So the default is to set the center and the radius, but you can also do center and diameter, you can do 2 points, 3 points. So AutoCAD has considered that there's many different ways of doing something. Now when we start to draw, we might start to find that when we navigate around the screen, again by using our pan or by zooming in and out, okay, that we're limited to a certain viewing area. I'm not experiencing that with my file, but oftentimes what happens if you pan to a certain point, that it's going to stop. And what that is that AutoCAD traditionally has what are called drawing limits. And so even though we're theoretically drawing into an infinite space, AutoCAD imposes drawing limits on each file and will limit the viewing area for your model space and in drawing in that model space, even if you have objects outside of that. So you can set up the drawing limits, okay, if you are finding this hindrance by using the limits command. However, and this is noted as a hack that I do, is that I find that I never need to set up these window limits, okay, when I start to work on a drawing. The only time that these limits affect my use of AutoCAD is when I'm in the process of drafting and AutoCAD limits what I can view. So it's not something that I usually notice right away. It's usually something that I notice as I'm drawing. And so my unorthodox method for alleviating this issue is to either perform a zoom extents, okay, and we'll get into the zoom command, and zoom to the extents of all the objects in the model space, but even this might not break, you know, the drawing limits. So instead I've gotten into the habit of drawing a line off into the distance to a ridiculous distance, and we'll talk about, you know, entering distances in a little bit. And then I do a zoom extents command, and it zooms to that ridiculous distance, okay? And then I delete the line, and then normally I don't have to do that again after that point. I may need to do it again, I may not, it depends, but rarely if I would ever do it a third time. So it's unorthodox, yes. I know some of these concepts we haven't covered just yet, but keep this in the back of your mind, because I find it's the fastest method when I'm faced with the drawing limits, since you would think that turning, you know, the off option and limits would work, but I find that it doesn't. Okay, so now introducing the zoom command. Is using the zoom command, there's also several options. So you can test these out by using the sub options of the command. So if I type in Z and enter, you can see that down below, okay, if I'm looking at my command line, you can see that zoom has different options, okay? And this is where we start to introduce the sub-options of the AutoCAD commands. So one of the greatest assets for a beginner using AutoCAD is the command line, as I've mentioned. What's beneficial about the command line is that AutoCAD, through the command line, is essentially talking back to you and asking for further input when needed. So additionally, you'll note that with most commands are subcommands. And those are additional commands that AutoCAD has associated with a tool, and we can see that with the zoom. So for example, when we type in zoom command, we can see the following subcommands. There's all, there's center, there's dynamic, there's extents, you know, so on and so forth. So these are additional options with the zoom command. The default for the zoom command is to create a window to zoom to, or you can specify whether or not you want to zoom all, zoom to center, extents, etc. by using the subcommands in AutoCAD. So you can see that just by default it says specify the corner of the window, and this is where the default is to create a window that it'll zoom to. Okay, but if I type in Z again, okay, in order to select a certain subcommand, so say I don't want to do a window, and I want to do another one, you will note that they normally have the first letter in caps. Okay, so if I look down below, you can see that the first letter of the word is not only blue, okay, but it's in caps. Now, this is not to be correct, okay, in case and sentence structure, but it's a hint that AutoCAD is actually giving you. So when you see the capital letter, that letter is the shortcut that you can enter in order to activate that subcommand. You can also type in the whole word, but, you know, of course, it takes longer. So, and also another thing to note is that in 99% of the cases, the first letter will be capitalized in subcommands, but you'll see instances where it's not. Also, when using the dynamic toolbar, okay, down here, one of the options in the, as we noticed, you can turn that on or off in the tool settings in the status bar. It incorporates all of the subcommands, so you don't have to follow the command line. Okay, if we have the dynamic toolbar. So here, for example, I'm in my zoom command right now. I'm going to escape out of it and just type in zoom again. Okay, and what I can do is if I want to zoom, let's say, to the extents, I look down below, it's a capital E, so I would hit E and enter. Okay, I'm just going to use my scroll button and zoom out again, if also with my command line, if I type in Z and enter, I can also click down below in the tool, in the command line. So it does the same thing. You can either do Z, enter, E enter for zoom extents, or you can do Z, enter, and then click in the command line. I can also type in extents, so I can say Z, enter, extents. Okay, or with the dynamic input, I can type in Z and enter, and then you'll see that right next to my cursor, it says specify the corner of the window, blah, 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 and then there's a down arrow key. And I can hit my down arrow key, and now I can hit extents there, and it does the same thing. So again, AutoCAD is giving us multiple options for doing the same thing, and it really, in the end, is a preference over, you know, how you're most comfortable drafting.